Today we're going to be comparing Madden 23 on the older gen consoles, PS4 and Xbox One, also the PC, versus Madden 23 on the Xbox Series X/S and the PlayStation 5. I'm going to show you the stuff that is the exact same on both generations, and then I'm going to show you the things that are different on the newer console so that you understand exactly what you're getting with each version of the game so that you know which version you want to buy. And if you want to stay up to date with all the latest Madden news, make sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon on so you don't miss any of these important videos. Starting with the pre-game presentation, on the left you're going to see Madden 23 on the old consoles and PC, and on the right you're going to see Madden 23 on the new consoles. So for the old gen, it's the same intro that the game has had since Madden 21. It has not changed a single bit. If you've played either of the last two games on old gen, you know this intro. On the right, it's the presentation that was mostly added last year in Madden 22, but they did add a few new cutscenes and a few new cinematics to the beginning. So while Madden 23 on the new consoles got a little bit of an update this year and a bigger update last year, the old presentation for old gen has been the same. And this is the third year in a row for that now, so you're probably sick of seeing it by now. And that's one of the main areas that the games are different, is that the presentation hasn't really been touched on old gen. Now we're going to look at some player comparisons. On the left is old gen and PC. On the right are the new consoles. And just like last year, of course, on the new consoles, the players are going to look a little better. They're going to look a little more realistic, but that's not reason enough to jump to a new console. You don't really see the players' faces in game that much, maybe some cutscenes here or there, but they wear helmets. So yes, they are going to look better and a little more realistic, but it's not that big of a deal for a football game, in my opinion. But for the people that like to see these things, I just want to show you the comparison. Some players look pretty close on both gens. Some look a little different, but as you can see, EA did actually update a lot of the character faces and models on old gen. As you can see, like this right here with Justin Fields, he doesn't look that much different, but they did actually update a good amount of the players on old gen. With Trayvon Diggs and guys like this, they actually added their new face scans. They don't do that for just next gen only, they do that on the old consoles as well. So while they've added new faces to guys that didn't have them, they've also updated some of the veterans as well on the older consoles, so it's not completely untouched. You can also notice something that I found interesting is that they also did adjust the bodies on old gen as well, not to the same degree that they did on the new consoles. You can see that there's more varied body types on the new consoles and they look better, but look at this for example. So right here, what you're looking at on the left is actually Madden 22 on old gen, and on the right is Madden 23 on old gen. So you can see that even on old gen this year, they have actually adjusted the body types a little bit. They're not as good as the newer consoles, but you can see on old gen last year, literally everybody has the exact same frame and body type. So even on the old gen for Madden 23, they have actually adjusted the bodies and the archetypes a little bit more, just not to the degree that they did on the new consoles. Here are some of the rookies. On the left, you've got Madden 23 old gen, right, Madden 23 new gen. One thing you will notice is that the pads are still big and bulky on old gen as well. That is one of the few things that is exclusive to the new consoles. They slimmed the pads down and made them a lot more realistic on new consoles, but on the old consoles, they still have the bulky pads, so the players all look a lot bigger than they really are. Now let's look at the Super Bowl intro presentation. So it's gonna basically be the same thing as the regular game presentation, the same type of cutscenes and cinematics you're going to see. So again, for old gen, it's been untouched, just like the regular pre-game presentation. On new gen, you've got the updated cinematics, and then, like I said, most of the pre-game is still stuff that was added last year, but Madden 23 has at least been touched a couple years in a row for the pre-game. For old gen, it has not been touched in 3 years, so the same thing is true for even the Super Bowl presentation. And here's the Super Bowl celebration. So again, if you have played Madden at all for like 10 years, the celebration on the left is no surprise to you. This has been the same for countless years now. Madden 23 old gen still has the same old Super Bowl celebration that we've had for, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years at this point. Madden 23 new gen, current gen, whatever you want to call it, has the updated Super Bowl presentation that was added last year. So if you're tired of the old Super Bowl celebration and you're still on the older consoles, that is once again not changing, and it's pretty clear at this point that they're just not going to change it. That's staying the way it is, so I guess that just is what it is at this point. They're clearly not changing it. Now we're jumping over to franchise mode. So this is the exact same on both generations of console. All of the new features for franchise mode are on both old gen and new gen. The layout, the way everything looks, the new free agency overhaul, as you could see with the player interests and the player motivations and tags, the new contracts that you can kind of pick and choose from that you can customize but also use, the templates that they've put in the game. Again, same on old gen and new gen. The player motivations right here, this is old gen on the screen. This is not new gen. You can kind of tell by the player model. The motivations and the tags are there. The John Madden Legacy game is also on both consoles. The only real difference here is that, of course, the player models are a little different and the gameplay is different, but the actual feature itself is on both generations of console. You can play with past players and current players on teams together. You have Coach John Madden on each sideline, and the point of this mode is to kind of just relive John Madden's history through a game. The commentary team talks about John Madden. John Madden himself pops in to do commentary as well. Face of the franchise is also the exact same on both generations of console. There's a new story where you're a fifth-year player trying to find your spot in the league, and you try to sign on to a team and see if you can make things happen. There's new side missions and things like that. It's the same on both. Also, modes like the Yard and Superstar KO are the exact same on both generations of console. Both of these modes went pretty much untouched, maybe a couple minor things that really isn't even worth mentioning, but they're both still on both generations of console. All of the Superstar and X Factor ability changes are the same on both consoles as well, like Jonathan Taylor, who has the new goal line back ability, or Aaron Rodgers, who has the new Dots X Factor. Also, the Escape Artist ability has been removed and is only now an X Factor, also on both generations. The playbook changes are also the same on both generations of console. Each team has new, updated, team-specific plays that are only found in that team's playbook. Now let's look at the player movement. So on the left is old gen, on the right is new gen, and it's just always been one of the bigger differences between both generations. On the newer consoles, it's a little more realistic, a little more slowed down, a little bit more weight and momentum is respected. On the old gen, as you're going to see in this next clip, you can kind of just move and change direction super quick at high speeds, and it's just very unrealistic. That's a big difference. The route running is also still different. On the old gen, they do more straight lines and hard cuts. On the right, they use next gen stat data to kind of determine how these players run their routes in real life, rounding them off and running them a little smoother. Here's a look at the weather comparison, and neither has changed in a few years. The main difference with the newer consoles is that the actual helmets and player jerseys can get wet and you get more puddles on the sideline, but the rain itself doesn't really look much different. Also, something I was just made aware of with the way they did new archetypes and the new bodies, you've noticed a lot of the numbers look kind of weird on the jerseys on the new consoles. As you can see, Tom Brady's 12 just looks really weird. Turns out that's actually a visual bug that's going to be fixed very soon, because I thought it was actually intentional at first and I didn't understand why. And here is the snow comparison. Again, it's going to look pretty similar on both generations. The main difference again is the helmets and uniforms can get wet on new gen and you get more snow piles on the sideline. Now let's look at some of the stuff that's exclusive to the new consoles, like skill-based passing. Most of the gameplay and presentation related stuff is really only the main differences between the games. All of the game mode stuff is the same, but skill-based passing is a good example of something that is exclusive to new consoles, where you can pinpoint the ball exactly where you want it, whereas on the older consoles, you can't do that. If I try to throw this same pass right here on the old gen, I cannot fully lead it to the outside, which honestly is kind of a bummer because you really should be able to, but that is one of the main differences. The zone drift logic is also exclusive to new consoles. You can see here, I'm able to easily defend this crossing route because of the drift logic. On the older consoles, they don't play this as well. The 360-degree cut mechanic is also exclusive to the new consoles, where you can make the hard plants and make those precise cutbacks and change direction in the open field. You can't do this on old gen. The hit everything tackling system with all the updated animations for midair knockouts, gang tackles, and just more organic physics-based tackles are also only exclusive to the new consoles. You've got tackle battles as well, which was brought back for the new consoles. That's not on old gen either. The playbook interface that was added a couple of years ago is still only exclusive to the new consoles as well, but to be honest, most people prefer the old layout on the side of the screen that is still in old gen anyway. The game day momentum and home field advantage is still also exclusive to the new consoles. I don't think they ever plan on bringing this to the old generation. And yes, for some reason, the gritty is only on the new consoles. This one I absolutely just don't understand understand why. Maybe it's going to be eventually added to the old systems in an update, but as of right now today, recording this, it's only available on the new consoles. Now, if you haven't checked out the full John Madden Legacy game, it's honestly one of the coolest things Madden has ever done, and that video is right here on the screen.